The national debt has exploded in this country. We're the biggest debtor nation in the history of the world. In my lifetime, the debt has gone from around $1 trillion to, when Obama leaves, it's going to be around $20 trillion. And there's no way we're going to pay that back. And we should probably just start being honest about that.
Like, we're $16 trillion in debt. Like, you know what the answer to that is? We're not going to pay it. That's the answer. I promise you, that's the answer. At some point, we're just going to be like, sorry, China, we don't have it. I don't know why you thought we would pay you back this money. We're inventing numbers. Like, what did you think? What did you see America producing that you thought was gonna, like, it's like, well, they just made the Jersey Shore. They're probably good for this money.
What I think is interesting is if you tried to tax people for a lot of the stuff that we just put on the credit card, they would never be for it. I mean, if any politician came out and said, we're gonna raise your taxes because we wanna give, a few $1 million to Egypt, people would go nuts. Like, there's no way people would want to pay more taxes than that. But when you don't put it that way, and you just give some money to Egypt and we just put that on the debt, people are okay with that. But all the national debt is the government promising to tax your kids. I mean, the only way they get money is by taxing people. So when the national debt is just a promise to tax later. People should be more outraged by that. People should go crazy that they're promising to tax your kids to give money to Egypt. And if you ever look at one of those, big debt clocks, they'll show you, like, this is the national debt, and then your household share. Like, they're expecting you to owe that money. That's a future tax on you and your family. And I don't even understand, look, if you want the government to do everything that it does, if you want our government to spend $4 trillion a year, okay, fine. But then you should have to pay for it. You shouldn't say, I want the government to spend this much money and I'll put it on my kids and grandkids to pick up the bill.
Like that guy Paul Ryan, he got famous for his plan for the debt. That was like his big thing, the Ryan budget. And then Obama was like, F that budget, that's bull. Here's my plan for the debt. And you're like, really? Really? Are all you guys pretending that you have a plan to pay off $16 trillion? Like, what is your plan? Like, all right, look. We are going to get serious. We are going to put $50 away every day. Every single day. Until this whole I already have the jar, so like we're halfway there.
Foreign aid shows how cocky we are as a country, that we would be this far in debt and we're still giving out money to poor countries. America is like a guy buying everyone drinks at the bar on his credit card when his bank account's overdrawn. We've spent trillions of dollars maintaining our empire around the world, and it's done absolutely no good for us. We've also spent a ton of money on big entitlement programs, and programs like Medicare and Medicaid have racked up all these unfunded liabilities. And what that means is that it's promises the government's made. So it's stuff that we're on the hook for. So you have all these people who have paid into Medicare their entire life, and now the government has made this deal that they owe them medical care when they reach a certain age. But the government hasn't kept any of that money that they've paid in their entire lives. We've spent all that money, so we don't have anything, but we owe it. And that's where you get that $115 trillion from. We owe all this money to people because they're counting on these programs, and they're not going to be there. And by the way, who else could do that but the government? Who else can just go take a debt out on behalf of you? Family members can't even do that to each other. You can't just go into a bank and say, I'm going to take out a loan on behalf of my son. He'll owe the debt to you. The solution is to default. The solution is to just immediately default on the debt. We're going to default anyway. We're not going to pay it off. We can't possibly pay off all this money, so we might as well just admit that now. If we were to default on the debt, what would happen is other countries wouldn't want to lend us money anymore because they just saw that we didn't pay back the last people who lent us money. But that would actually be a good thing. Then we would actually have to get serious. We would have to say, what can we actually afford for the government to do? Now, if we were in a position where no one else was lending us money, and we wanted to keep any of these programs going, what we would have to do is tax people to pay for it. And then we would find out what people are willing to actually pay for when it's not just being burdened on the next generation. And there's a ton that we could cut. We could cut a lot of the militarism. We don't have to be the policemen of the world. We could roll back these entitlement programs. I think people at this point could realize that they're going to do a better job planning for their own retirement than the government has. At least they're not just going to take the money, pretend to be planning for their retirement, and then just spend it on other things. We could roll back entire departments, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of Homeland Security. They're all unnecessary.
Now crawl your head in that noose. You wind up dead on the news. Ain't no peace treaty, just peace and BG's up to pre-approved. Bodies on top of bodies, IVs on top of IVs. Obviously the coroner between the sheets like the Osleys. When you hop on that trolley, make sure your color's correct.